Doreen Sager.
And I'm Armin Feldman. We're brother and sister. And our mother, Helen Feldman, was one heck of a great cook. And we're going to share with you our mother's recipes.
We grew up in a traditional Jewish household, and we want to show you the wonderful dishes that our mother passed along to us, and how we carry on our family's Jewish heritage and traditions through cooking. We're going to bring her great food to you.
Yeah, that's right, Doreen. Don't you agree that all of the women in our mother's circle, they were all great cooks, but hands down, our mother was considered the absolute best, even among her peers?
There's no doubt about that. From the time that we were young enough to reach the kitchen counter, our mom taught us how to prepare and serve all kinds of fabulous Jewish recipes, including borscht, kugel, farfo, gefilte fish, and so many more.
I love that borscht. That was my favorite.
I know.
Our mom grew up on the north side of Chicago, and what's so interesting is that her parents came over in that great wave of European immigration right at the beginning of the 1900s. And these were very adventurous people who came over from Europe. They all went through Ellis Island and then dispersed really all over the United States. And our grandparents moved directly to Chicago. A lot of the Jewish people came over to the United States because there was religious persecution. Really, they were no different than the people on the Mayflower. Our mother learned all of her great recipes from her mother, and then of course she passed it all along to us.
So let's get started. Today we're going to prepare our mother's savory beef brisket. Hello, I'm Doreen Sager.
And I'm Armin Feldman. We're brother and sister. And our mother, Helen Feldman, was one heck of a great cook. And we're going to share with you our mother's recipes.
We grew up in a traditional Jewish household, and we want to show you the wonderful dishes that our mother passed along to us, and how we carry on our family's Jewish heritage and traditions through cooking. We're going to bring her great food to you.
Yeah, that's right, Doreen. Don't you agree that all of the women in our mother's circle, they were all great cooks, but hands down, our mother was considered the absolute best, even among her peers?
There's no doubt about that. From the time that we were young enough to reach the kitchen counter, our mom taught us how to prepare and serve all kinds of fabulous Jewish recipes, including borscht, kugel, farfo, gefilte fish, and so many more.
I love that borscht. That was my favorite.
I know.
Our mom grew up on the north side of Chicago, and what's so interesting is that her parents came over in that great wave of European immigration right at the beginning of the 1900s. And these were very adventurous people who came over from Europe. They all went through Ellis Island and then dispersed really all over the United States. And our grandparents moved directly to Chicago. A lot of the Jewish people came over to the United States because there was religious persecution. Really, they were no different than the people on the Mayflower. Our mother learned all of her great recipes from her mother, and then of course she passed it all along to us.
So let's get started. Today we're going to prepare our mother's savory beef brisket, her incredibly rich noodle kugel, and a wonderful, wonderful fruit compote. Now, noodle kugel is a form of a casserole or pudding, and you're going to learn about these terrific traditional Jewish recipes, and I've got to tell you, you might pick up a little Yiddish along the way from us.
Yeah, that's what we did too. We picked up a little Yiddish.
We did. Yiddish is a universal language for Jewish people. It's spoken throughout the world, and you know, it's even crept into the language of the United States. Lots of Jewish words that people say that they don't even know are Jewish.
Right, so Doreen, that means that when it comes to this kind of cooking, you're a maven, an expert.
That's exactly what I mean. In fact, I think we're both mavens.
Absolutely. Well, let's get started on the brisket. So for the beef brisket, start with about 5 pounds. And you can get that at the butcher shop. You can get that probably, don't you think, Doreen, even at the meat counter of the supermarket.
Sure, absolutely.
And I remember Mom used to make this for Friday night at-home Sabbath dinner, and sometimes we'd have it at Passover.
We did, but often it was made for large gatherings of people because it was fairly inexpensive. but it's always a crowd pleaser and you always get rave reviews. This particular cut of meat was very popular among immigrants when they first came here because it was an inexpensive cut of meat and it wouldn't break their budget. And I find that today with the price of beef, this is still an absolutely fabulous, fabulous cut of meat to make for a large crowd or for your family.
Yeah, it really is. So preheat your oven to 325, and you want to have the brisket fat side up. That's one of the secrets to making sure that it's really tender. And we do have one of Mom's other really great secrets with regard to making this tender, and we'll share that with you in just a minute. But you know, Doreen, you're right. This is just an absolutely traditional Jewish dish.
Let me just tell you a quick story,
Yeah.
if you don't mind. I was standing at the meat counter last week, and some woman came along, and I was buying a beef brisket, and she said, "What kind of meat is that?" I gave her the recipe that we're going to share with you today, and she was so excited to have a new recipe. She was shopping with her husband, and she said to her husband, "Go and get all these items." It was so cute. He was running down all the aisles, getting the chili sauce, getting the onion soup. It was really wonderful. And today, you're going to learn her recipe and ours.
Yeah, and my sister, she's such a mensch, and mensch, that's Yiddish for a person with really special qualities. Here she is at the butcher counter giving out our mother's recipe, or a mensch.
Oh, thank you. It made me think that
Yeah.
perhaps there are a lot of non-Jewish people who are not making brisket, and that this really might appeal to a lot of people who have never made this cut of meat before. So today, let's start with our seasonings.
Okay, what do I do?
I would put a little seasoned salt on this.
Okay, now, I know the last time we did this, you kind of scolded me because I didn't put it on both sides, right?
Exactly.
So-
You need it on both sides. And
Okay.
rub it in a little bit.
Okay, that's what, 2 tablespoons?
2 tablespoons.
Okay, got it. What's
And
next?
now I would like you to put a little garlic powder, and I know you like fresh garlic. but
Right.
I use some garlic powder, and I find it's just as good.
Okay.
You can use either. Let's rub that all
Okay.
over the brisket.
And that's what, 2 teaspoons?
That is 2 teaspoons.
Okay, let me put that on the other side too.
Let's get that rubbed in.
All right, got it.
And now hit it with a little bit of pepper.
Okay, got to dry my hands a little bit for that.
Nope, no, no, no. That's it.
Okay. And right both sides.
Both sides.
Got it?
All right. Now that you've done that, let's take some chili sauce.
Okay, do we want to put this soup on now?
Not yet.
Okay.
Let's take some chili sauce. Let's put it into our pan so you can see that we're just throwing it in the pan. And now for our mother's secret ingredient, she would use to tenderize the meat, 12 ounces of beer.
Right, so that means I can't drink that now.
You
Okay.
cannot have this because this is going into
All
our
right.
brisket. So let's throw it in here. And there's nothing very scientific. You just throw it in. Now I have a little
Secret.
I throw the rest of the beer into the bottle so that I don't lose 1 ounce of this good chili sauce. And if you wanted to make your own chili sauce, you absolutely could. You don't need to use the bottled chili sauce. But you know, it's just as easy. So that saves a step for you. Now we have
Oh, okay. Here you go.
1 package of onion soup mix. We're going to throw that in. And Armin, if you could just give this a stir.
All
Can
right.
you reach?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, now we can put the brisket in.
Okay, let me do that for you. And this is going fat side up.
Armin, why is it fat side up?
It's much more tender that way.
You know, I never really realized that. So the fat bakes into the meat, obviously. It bakes down into the meat when you do it fat side up.
Yeah, and also that renders some of that fat into this nice thick gravy that we're going to have too.
Okay, so we're going to cook this how long?
You would do this at 325, and depending on your oven, you want to do this for 3 or 4 hours. You want to roast it for 3 or 4 hours. And when it's done, you've got this rich, thick, really delicious gravy. The whole house smells great.
It does.
And do you remember, sometimes Mom would cut up some carrots and some potatoes, and maybe 45 minutes to an hour before the roast was done, she'd throw those in the pan. the vegetables come out so flavorful. They pick up that
Succulent.
meat, yeah, and the gravy, then they're perfect.
Delicious.
So if you hand me the cover,
Okay.
because you want to roast this covered, and we're going to drop this in the oven for about 3 to 4 hours. Oh wow, that smells just great. That brisket has been baking about 4 hours.
Isn't it absolutely gorgeous? And the kitchen smells delicious. Ah, I can't wait to get into this.
Boy, it looks good. Now, we've let this rest for about 15 minutes, and that's going to keep the juices in. And let's cut some of this. Boy,
Hot,
oh, look
be
at that.
careful. Woo.
Whoa. Wow.
This is what happens in our kitchen.
Yeah, okay. Wow, does that look good?
Doesn't it?
Now, it's done when it falls off the fork. So obviously, this is done, right? I'll take this. And to maximize your tenderness of your meat, you want to cut it on the bias, and that is against the grain like I'm doing here. And the other reason for that is when you get these nice pieces like this, it really makes for a great presentation too. So, wow, does that smell good? Let's put a couple of pieces of meat on our plate. Boy, does that look good, huh?
Looks delicious.
I'm a little hungry. I'm going to put 2.
Well, that's going to do it for today's show. I hope you'll try all of these great traditional Jewish recipes that came from our mother's kitchen.
You can find all of these recipes on our website at ourmothersrecipesonline.com, and also register to get a copy of our cookbook, Our Mother's Recipes, Carrying on a Jewish Tradition. You can find it on the website, and also you'll be able to find it on Amazon. And this video is also available on our channel on YouTube at Great Jewish Recipes.
Sei gesund. That's be healthy in Yiddish. And we'll see you next time on Our Mother's Recipes.